So, if it hasn't already been said, let me welcome everybody to this special moment of the year where we can recognize people for their excellent service, for their years of service, and a few extra comments about those of you that have been able to join the project in the last year. And so, with that, let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to start sharing screen and hand over to Amy for a few comments, and then we'll go through an agenda.
Okay, so welcome everybody. We are going to have live translation. Nicole is doing it. I put the Blue Jeans connection in the chat here in Blue Jeans if you want to join there. Presenters, just be mindful that since she is doing live translation, to go slow on your speaking. Let's see, physical awards will be distributed at a later date. Monetary award payouts will be reflected in payroll following today's ceremony. And we will also post this presentation and the recording once it's all done. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Phil, or over to Phil.
Great, thanks, Amy. So I just wanted to say a few words of welcome. So good morning, good afternoon, buenas tardes, and I guess even good evening to some of you. I'm just going to show a few slides, so let me get those set up. While I'm doing that, let me first pass on the apologies from Matt Mountain. He has a dry run exercise for the Webb launch this week. Let's see. And how is that working?
Looks good.
Looks good.
Great. So we're all sick of the pandemic, right? I'm not going to say much more about that. We're all still dealing with it. It's been tremendously challenging, and I can barely imagine the efforts that you all have put in to achieve the amazing work that you have actually been able to achieve this year. Steve and Victor and others are going to talk about that summarize that with some great pictures in a few minutes. So I won't touch on that. What I will do is maybe just say a few words about some of the other highlights from elsewhere in the Aura family. Just touching each one just briefly. Let's see. So as I mentioned, Matt can't be with us. He's working on a James Webb activity today. As some of you, maybe many of you know, the James Webb Space Telescope is very close to being ready for launch this November. It's fully assembled, fully tested in California, being prepared for a shipment down to Kourou in French Guiana, being launched on an Ariane spacecraft. The first call for proposals from the science users went out. That proposal cycle was very successful, a great deal of interest, as you would imagine. And everyone's very much looking forward to what is going to be the next NASA Great Observatory and being managed by Aura. One difference between Webb and Hubble is that, in fact, Aura has the Mission Operations Center. So the pictures that you see of the people lined up at consoles controlling the spacecraft, normally those are at NASA's centers, at Goddard, for example, for the Hubble Space Telescope, but that's actually at the Aura premises in Baltimore for James Webb. So that's a new activity and an interesting challenge for Aura. Continuing with the space theme, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, the Roman Space Telescope, completed its critical design review for the ground system. That's the part of the spacecraft that Aura is responsible for. You can kind of think of Roman as being like the kid sister to Rubin. It's a wide field telescope, nowhere near as wide field as Rubin is, of course, but certainly compared with Hubble, it's about 100 times the Hubble imaging area, with an emphasis on the infrared part of the spectrum. and that's scheduled for currently scheduled for launch in 2025, and is fully funded to achieve that launch date. Moving back to the ground, the Inouye Solar Telescope, sometimes known as DKIST, on Maui is very close to completion of construction. It had its final construction review run by NSF a couple of weeks ago, very successfully, and they're looking at finishing the commissioning and integration of their first suite of instruments over the next few weeks and months, handing over to operations in November. So that's only 3 or 4 months away now. Very exciting time for all of the staff at the National Solar Observatory. Skip this one, you're going to hear lots more about that, and you obviously all know much more than I do about it. Last slide I have. So despite COVID and other challenging activities, such as Hubble going into a safe mode for a few weeks, fantastic science is continuing through all of the operational facilities. Just a few snapshots here. In the upper left, those are 2 images of the moon Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons, showing the first evidence for water vapor emerging from its ice-covered surface. On the upper right, we have one of the releases, data releases from the Dark Energy Camera, the Dark Energy Survey, obviously acting as a precursor to some of the types of measurements and results that Rubin will be providing in the not too distant future now. Down in the lower left, we have an artist's impression, but derived from a result from the GMOS optical imager and spectrograph on Gemini of one of these massive explosions, which is now understood to be supernova powering a gamma ray bursts, so that these are so powerful that they're observed across the electromagnetic spectrum and seen by gamma ray satellites that trigger the observations with the ground-based telescopes. One of these interesting examples of multi-messenger astronomy of one type of observation triggering others, and obviously Rubin's going to be playing a major role in there. And then last but not least, in the lower right, a result from one of NSO's, the National Solar Observatory's, smaller facilities, but also very important, which is the GONG network. One of those telescopes, of course, up on Cerro Tololo, one of 6, which measure the oscillations of the sun and use those to determine properties such as the magnetic field, and also from those oscillations measure whether there are going to be sunspots, for example, around on the backside of the sun, which could rotate round and contribute to space weather. So just a few snapshots there of some of the work that's going on. That's all I have for the slides. Let me stop sharing. Just to add my congratulations to the award winners, but really to express my and everyone at Aura headquarters really sincere appreciation for all the work that everyone on the team has done in this challenging year once again. And let's stop it being a challenging year, and let's say something different next year. Thank you. Back to you, Amy. Victor.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks for stepping in, and thanks for those words. It's nice to see what else is going on within Aura. I believe I am sharing screen now. Do you see?
It comes up, yeah.
And so with that, let me hand over to Steve.
Hey, thanks, Victor. And let me take this opportunity to congratulate all of you on what has been we've had the continuous evolution of the COVID pandemic from its earliest phases to where we are now, hopefully on the way down, but with still major uncertainties facing us. I want all of you to know that the Rubin Observatory construction project is viewed as one of the exemplars of how to manage and run a project and make progress in the face of a truly extraordinary circumstance. And I've received personal congratulations from both federal agencies, as well as our oversight and others, about how well you guys have done in keeping us focused, keeping us dedicated, and making a tremendous amount of progress under very trying circumstances. So this is an awards ceremony, and we will highlight a limited number of individuals, but everybody who's on this call should take pride in how we performed as a team over the last year. It also comes as at an interesting time. Next week, I think most of you know, we have the Project and Community Workshop, and I hope that as many of you as possible will try to attend some of those sessions. It's likely to be a very interesting and exciting meeting. It will be dominated in its participation by the external community. And that shows the interest in Rubin that is developing as we near the completion of construction. The scientists from around the world, through many of our in-kind partners, are gearing up to exploit this truly fantastic facility, and we should all be proud for having made that possible. But this meeting itself comes, just a week before, so it's nice because it allows us to meet as a family of the people that actually are working on the construction project, not just the users, and to pat ourselves on the back. Okay, I have a few slides here. I'll confess that Victor prepared. Kudos to Victor, but I will run through them. So COVID has been challenging, as we said, and it also really called out our safety team and our safety policies to adapt quickly to the threats and the risks that this pandemic imposed. And we're extremely proud of Giovanni and other members of the safety team for having risen to that occasion. We've implemented a number of COVID-specific safety precautions, including rapid testing on site to reduce the possibility of exposure, contact tracing when there are exposures that have been detected, very detailed educational programs, and policies drafted relatively quickly to ensure that we were on top of the COVID pandemic. But I should just add that this was not the only safety challenge we faced. We did manage to resume activity on the mountain last September, and we're at the phase in the project now where there are very high risk, high consequence activities that we're undertaking basically on a weekly basis. And our team has performed marvelously under those circumstances. As you'll see in the next slides, a lot of progress was made on the dome and the TMA, and those involve very heavy lifts, very large, complicated interactions, accommodating multiple vendors, multiple contractors on site at the same time. It's really, really extremely impressive that we've made our way through all those accomplishments without any major accidents. One area, however, where we have had challenge has been getting up and down from the mountain on that road. Road safety continues to be a significant concern for us, as well as for all of Aura in Chile. And you will see some new procedural steps and new policies we're invoking there. But just take our word for it that we have your interests, those of you going up and down to the mountain, in mind. And we really want to avoid any further accidents on the road. Okay, next slide, Victor. So as I mentioned, an enormous amount of progress has been made, and that's just shown in these pictures. A big event was the installation of the permanent dome crane which came from Italy and was used to replace the temporary crane that we had there. That went relatively flawlessly. Made a huge amount of progress on enclosing the dome. It looks entirely enclosed now. In fact, there are still a few minor elements that still need to be accomplished, but we finally have a dark enclosure over the telescope, and that's an enormous accomplishment. At the lower right, you can see the picture of the TMA as it currently exists. So much of the large components of the telescope have been assembled. When we get our TMA contractors back on site later this month, then we can begin the final stages, which will involve commissioning the oil-bearing system, and then testing the telescope, installing the top end, etc. A lot of work has been done on the coating chamber and preparing the M1, M3 cell and its surrogate for coating tests, eventually for coating M1, M3. M2, we did some coating much earlier. And then most of this project now is transitioning over to our sitcom team as we bring the various components together. So in the upper left, you see the commissioning camera being tested with the camera rotator, etc. And there's a huge amount of work that's been accomplished there. Next slide. So we are actually producing data from the site. We have the auxiliary telescope up and running with its spectrograph. That's been conducting observations. So we actually are operating a facility on Cerro Pachon as part of this project. Those data are flowing to our data facilities at NCSA in Illinois successfully. That's been worked out. A lot of software communication issues have been rectified during the time we've had, and so that's also a major achievement. You see images from the commissioning camera itself, which, as you saw, is down in Chile, is producing data, and we've been integrating the commissioning camera with other elements of the top end. Next slide. A huge amount of progress has been made on the camera. I think most of you are aware that we assembled the full focal plane last summer into the early fall and began testing the cryostat. We did encounter some issues in the refrigeration system. Those have largely, maybe not completely, been diagnosed, and we're having better success with the prototype refrigeration systems now. We've also instituted some work on an alternate system if the need arises. The utility trunk, which you see in this picture on the upper left, is an enormous element of the camera that contains the refrigeration and vacuum control systems, a lot of the control electronics, power systems, etc. It's a very complex beast that was finally assembled, completed, and as of a few weeks ago, it's actually been installed on the cryostat. And we're about to rotate this system now to do the final electro-optical testing on the cryostat with all of its final hardware that will be shipped to Chile. And then we've also just completed the fabrication of all 6 of the filters that will define the color bands for the Rubin Observatory. These were challenging coatings on very large optics, and we've had very good success with that. No reason to relax any of the very tight requirements we put on the optics. Next slide. And again, our EPO team continues to make a lot of progress, and they are in their final step for delivering the education and public outreach tools under construction to the operations effort. They've had a lot of success in prototyping these tools and vetting them with an external community of educators and other representatives of the outreach community. And then the commissioning team has also been engaging more with the community to welcome external participation as members of the commissioning team as we get into the final stages. Next slide. And we've all, of course, been working under difficult circumstances, not only in the summit or at Slack or in the software teams, but we've continued to have extensive meetings of our entire construction team. You're all very familiar with his Blue Jeans and Zoom protocols at this stage. We've learned a lot about how to interact with each other. Some of those lessons, I think, will survive as we move beyond the COVID era. But it's kind of a new element of our life that few of us really expected to come about at this point. And after shaking out some bugs, I think most of these meetings are working quite well, even if they're remote. But we do all hope to gather again in person, and we're looking forward to that, which maybe as early as this fall. And I think that's the last slide I have, Victor. So yeah, this is a closing picture which Phil briefly showed. It's one of a series of drone pictures recently taken over the summit, and you can see the dome essentially fully enclosed and the maturity of the progress we've made on the summit. Okay, let me close there, and I'll turn it over to Mario Hamoy. If you don't know Mario, he is the Vice President of Aura and the Head of Mission for the Aura Observatory in Chile. Mario?
Thank you very much, Steve and Victor, for inviting me to say a few words in this very important award ceremony. Now I will switch into Spanish. Estimado equipo del proyecto Rubin, a todos muy buenas tardes. Es un gusto poder conectar con ustedes y al menos a la distancia poder saludarlos y felicitarlos en esta ceremonia de premiación. Este particular último año y medio ha evidenciado el gran equipo de colaboradores que forma parte de esta organización, quienes han mostrado su máxima flexibilidad y compromiso para seguir trabajando en condiciones muy inusuales. Por ello, quiero aprovechar esta instancia para agradecer, a través de ustedes, a todos quienes están detrás del proyecto Verace Rubin, por su gran entrega durante este tiempo, para seguir adelante con el desarrollo de esta iniciativa en tiempos difíciles e intentar que el calendario de obras se retrase lo menos posible. La construcción de Rubin por sí sola es un tremendo desafío, tanto en materia de desarrollo tecnológico, como producto de las condiciones geográficas en las cuales se emplaza la obra. Si a ello le sumamos la pandemia por COVID, lo transformamos en un verdadero desafío olímpico, el cual estoy confiado que este equipo va a alcanzar la medalla de oro. Quisiera destacar que este desafío lo asumen con todo el respaldo de Aura en Chile, cuyo equipo ha estado trabajando para apoyar logísticamente la construcción de Rubin. Y pese a las restricciones producto del coronavirus, ha mantenido las importaciones necesarias para seguir las obras, así como la obtención de los permisos requeridos junto a la respectiva asesoría legal. Hemos aprendido a mantenernos operativos pese a la pandemia y siempre tomando las medidas sanitarias necesarias para cuidar de cada uno de quienes integran esta organización. Esto debe llenarlos de orgullo, al igual que el observatorio de vanguardia que están construyendo en Cerro Pachón, el cual permitirá seguir haciendo ciencia de frontera y ampliar los conocimientos de la astronomía y la astrofísica a nivel mundial. La construcción de Rubin pudo seguir en marcha en este complejo escenario gracias a cada una de las personas que forman el equipo que trabaja en su desarrollo. En especial quiero agradecer el compromiso y entrega de aquellos colaboradores que serán reconocidos hoy, puesto que sin cada uno de ustedes no podríamos seguir avanzando en el desarrollo de ciencia y excelencia para toda la humanidad. Muy buenas tardes y muchas gracias.
Gracias, Mario. Muy amable. So next, let me introduce Mario Gonzalez, who is our Safety Environmental Manager in Chile, has many responsibilities, including is the President of the Union of workers in Chile. And so let me hand over to Mario for a few words from him.
Hey, Victor. Thank you very much for invite to participate in our ceremony. It's very good the collaboration to the total employee. My special congratulations to Steve Camp, director to Vera Rubin Telescope, Robert Plum, my good friend, deputy director of Vera Rubin, Dr. Phil Paxley, vice president for our strategic project, Mario Moy, director Aura in Chile, and Victor Clavendan, my good, and remember you are a very good person, very good to me. For my commodity, only to speak in Spanish and your compression. Estoy agradeciendo la invitación que nos ha hecho Vera Rubin, ya lo hice. Y lo hago en representación del Sindicato de Trabajadores de Auraín, que actualmente tiene 201 socios que trabajan activamente en los diferentes centros astronómicos en Chile. Deseamos expresar en especial al grupo que trabaja en Vera Rubin. Le decimos que estamos aportando con toda nuestra dedicación y esfuerzo en que este telescopio vea su primera luz en los próximos años. Los trabajadores estamos muy comprometidos con la ciencia y estamos y seguiremos siendo parte integral de esto porque nos mueve la investigación científica. Por lo tanto, ténganlo por seguro que cuentan con un gran equipo de trabajo comprometido y leal. No podemos dejar pasar y agradecer como Aura y Vera Rubin han innovado a través del CEPP 4.1 and the Net Version 5 version in the next month en desarrollar un modelo de trabajo y seguridad para proteger la salud frente a COVID-19 de nuestros trabajadores. Ha sido una gran lucha, no exenta de dificultades, pero a la voluntad de la dirección y con la motivación y entrega de todos nosotros por terminar esta pandemia. Esperamos pronto volvernos todos a nuestros lugares de trabajo, una vez controlada esta pandemia, pero debemos de expresar nuestro especial reconocimiento a los funcionarios que cumplen esta misión, cumpliendo este modelo de burbuja y que han permitido seguir la construcción. A ellos le damos, a la distancia, un gran abrazo por su doble preocupación y respeto por su salud, su trabajo y por el gran ejemplo que nos han dado. En mi calidad, por lo tanto, de presidente, les hablo en representación de un número importante de socios, más de 200, siendo el sindicato más grande que existe en los observatorios en Chile. Y nuestra intervención es en relación a destacar el valor simbólico de esta ceremonia. La amistad siempre ha reinado y el deseo de seguir adelante y colaborar desde la casa o en forma presencial para hacer de nuestro observatorio una cuna del desarrollo de la investigación científica. Pronto volverán los tiempos que estrecharemos nuestra mano y recordaremos lo difícil que ha sido esta pandemia, que es COVID. Debemos sí reconocer estos esfuerzos que ha realizado Aura para dejar nuestras instalaciones seguras, aunque sí reconocemos fue doloroso tener cerrados nuestros telescopios por algunos meses. Consideramos la medida como leal y honesto llamado a la salud y vida de todos nosotros. Estos 16 meses con COVID han sido para algunos socios algo un poco más duro que dejar a su familia, pero con la fuerza y dedicación por llevar a cabo la construcción y pronta inauguración, porque este proyecto hará mucha ciencia innovadora y única que marcará un hito en la comunidad científica y todos estaremos orgullosos de haber sido parte de este centro astronómico. Al terminar, un fuerte abrazo afectuoso a todos a la distancia. Pronto nos reencontraremos juntos para dedicarnos a entregar nuestro trabajo e intentaremos la más pura amistad y fraternidad. Que tengan un buen día. Gracias por ser parte de este gran proyecto. Y todo este sindicato apoya con todo su esfuerzo y dedicación para el futuro de todos. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Mario. Thank you for the kind words. And as several have made comments about us moving into operations and the wonderful science we're going to do with this observatory, let me cede the floor over for a moment to Bob Blum for a few comments. Bob was there a moment ago.
I'm back. I clicked too soon.
Yeah.
Gracias, Mario, para las palabras. Muy, muy amable. Y buenas tardes y buenos días a todos. Es un placer estar con ustedes hoy día. Y ahora voy a cambiar en inglés. It is a pleasure to be here with you and to acknowledge all the challenges that the last year has brought, but really more importantly to celebrate your success today. Rubin, in the end, really is about people. And the observatory is much, much more than telescopes and cameras and software. At its heart, it's really people, and it's you. And we are just fortunate to have you as this incredible team. I'll keep my remarks brief because I've already looked down below in the slides, and there's really some very well-deserved awards that I'm sure you all want to get to. That's the most important thing today. You know, looking at the success of the past year, and there have been serious successes getting through what we've gotten through and getting where we are. It's also a good time to look at where we're going in the future, and so we can be sure that we succeed in operations with this team and this observatory and everything that you have delivered or will deliver soon for the community. The operations team continues to work very closely with Victor and the construction team to make as smooth a transition as we can to operations. We're putting together a great leadership team, and the key is that the leaders on operations are playing key roles in the construction project. So we have a very good view of what's happening on both sides, and we can work together as Rubin Observatory to succeed for everybody, to succeed in finishing and building, and succeed in operating and doing science. And so just to remind you who that great team is, helping with all the operations planning that we're doing right now, and even some operations that you'll hear about more when you come to the PCW next week. Amanda Bauer is the Deputy Director for Operations. Chuck Klaver is the Associate Director for Rubin Observatory Operations. That's everything that happens in Chile with a great facility there. Leanne Guy will be our AD for System Performance, and Will Omelin the AD for Data Production, all the data products that will do the science that we're so looking forward to. And of course, we also have Željko Ivisic as the head of science for LSST, really driving and making sure that science stays primary in our minds and our plans as we go forward. And Ranpal Gill as head of program operations, helping us keep everything moving in the right direction. As you know, we've been having conversations, Victor and I and some of your managers, with people on the construction side, lining up roles in operations and also in the WAR lab. And don't worry if we haven't talked to you yet. We've been a little slowed down because of the recent rebaseline activities, but we're picking up again. And we're going to be talking to folks more and more as we go through the next couple months. So we're getting things lined up and we're getting ready. I realize and acknowledge that, you know, transitioning from construction to operations is a difficult thing, and it's even more challenging when you think about transitioning into a new organization like Noir Lab. I really do believe in the end that Noir Lab will provide a solid and large base from which to operate Rubin Observatory itself, and it's also going to provide lots of opportunities going way into the future, way beyond the LSST. For staff growth and advancement and new things to do. So I think it's actually, while it's a challenge, it's also exciting. So as you emerge from the pandemic and rededicate yourselves to finishing the observatory, things are looking better in Chile, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that it'll all go well. Please don't forget to pause and really reflect and appreciate for yourselves how far you've come and what you've achieved. I look forward to working with all of you as we transition just smooth as we can into operations and deliver this legacy survey of space and time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Those great words and sentiments, and really appreciate that. And we all have been really happy to know that there's a competent operations team forming, so that when we finish this, that it is going to be handed off to a great team to actually execute the survey. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Several people have made mention about the team, and I couldn't agree more on the importance. And as you can all imagine and appreciate, that there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes to keep the team together and to form such a great team. And so let me introduce Linda Deck and give her a moment to say some words from Human Resources.
Thank you, Victor. I think is there another slide? There we go. I, as well as my entire HR staff, really appreciates the opportunity to participate and recognize each and every one of you who are receiving an award today. It really goes without saying the award ceremonies at Aura are one of our favorite occasions. It really provides an opportunity to reflect on the preceding year, to address the entire Rubin community and share the achievements, accomplishments, and success of our colleagues. There have been amazing progress made by the Rubin staff, especially when you consider the circumstances and all of the challenges we have faced over the past 18 months. The Rubin employees' adaptability was inspiring, and it was really a privilege to work with the project over the past year. I thought a lot about what I would say today, and I went back and I looked at my notes from last year, because I was given this opportunity to speak last year as well. And I looked back, and in my notes in bold print, I had 2020 was the most challenging year in our professional careers. Well, 2021 brought us some additional challenges, and they came, I think, both personally and professionally. And while some of you worked on site and found ways to keep each other safe and move the project forward, many of us continued to work from home, finding ways to meet the challenges this pandemic has presented. I continue to watch all of you determine how best to achieve your goals, meet the challenges we're all faced with, support each other, continue to improve our culture, build strong teams while we increase diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout Aura. But once again, we find ourselves here having a virtual ceremony with all the wonderful things that go with it, like poor connections and not having the ability to shake each other's hands or sit next to each other and congratulate in person. But, please know that your accomplishments deserve much more fanfare than this virtual ceremony could ever give. However, it can't diminish your dedication and your accomplishments that you have achieved. And I hope that the award that you are receiving today will always remind you of our appreciation for everything you have done during your years of service and your ongoing commitment to the success of Rubin. I'm soon approaching my 4th year with Aura, and I continue to start each and every day as excited as I was on my first day of employment. Although many of us work virtually without the opportunity to collaborate in person, the ability to work with you and support such a talented and dedicated group is not lost on me. I find it both an honor and a pleasure to congratulate both the Aura Award winners as well as the individuals who have met time and service milestones. So from my staff to all of you, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Linda, and thank you very much to you and your whole team for all the support. And let me just particularly identify Amy and Yura, who are my principal points of contact for the activities that we are constantly working through. And I really appreciate their direct support as we move through this project and through this year and through all these challenges. So thank you for that. I have no idea what my computer is doing or what you're seeing. So
Yeah.
I assume you're seeing me flip through slides. Okay. Do you see awards for Rubin Observatory team?
Yeah.
Thank you. Even though we've got 18 months of experience with this, we still face challenges, and you're witnessing some of mine as we try to get this very simple task done. But as with this point, let me let's go into this key part of today's agenda, which is to actually work through and congratulate each of the 4 award winners, or the 3 award winners in the team, and then we'll walk through some of the years of service awards as well. And so let me just start right up with our award. There you go. Amazon is here. So let me just start right off with a sincere and heartfelt congratulations to Amy. Amy is going to receive our Outstanding Service Award this past year. She has really helped out a lot with some of the changes in the admin team, and not just with COVID-related issues, but as our team has changed, she has helped us organize, helped fill in as needed, and it's been a real help in that regard. While we've been doing that, she has also continued her really good support of the project office, of the education public outreach team, of the sitcom team, and the systems engineers, and that whole effort and her support to those groups and those managers has really been tireless and efficient, and I really appreciate that. And one other note is it's not obvious in the org chart, but I really should point out that it is through Amy's hard work that she is able to manage both Steve and myself, and all of our success stems from help from Amy and others like her. So let me once again congratulate Amy for the recognition for her outstanding service last year, and thank her very much for that work, to me personally and to the team. Next, let me congratulate Rampal Gill, who is a very deserving recipient of the ORA Award for service in the diversity, equity, and inclusion area. She's really done an amazing job working with not just project members, but with the community to develop programs and initiatives to highlight and take steps to improve our diversity, equity, and inclusion, both within Rubin, within ORA as an organization, and even broadly within the community. And she's been not just instrumental in establishing these initiatives, but also in executing them and staying on it and continuing to move those initiatives forward to keep the ideas and the thoughts and the work in a weekly or maybe monthly activity and in our minds as we try to do better jobs and build a better team. So, and I also want to point out that she's been a valuable contributor to just the overall project office and in our leadership in the decision making and in the planning for how we move forward in a way that really enhances our diversity, equity, and inclusion within the team. So, thank you, Rampal, for all of your hard and diligent work in this area, and congratulations. This is the part where the virtual element is really so unsatisfying, because I really like to hear applause and all those things. But we move on anyway. So let me move on to the Technology and Innovation Award and congratulate Michael Reuter for invite Chuck to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, Victor. Yeah, we all want to congratulate Michael on his tireless efforts on diving down into the weeds and details and getting the integration of the software that makes these things work. So Michael's recognized across the project for this effort, not just with Sitcom, but with data management, Telescope and Site, and also the camera team. In addition, I want to add a few little other words. In addition to the software effort that Michael has contributed to the success of this project, he's also done some other interesting, fun things and made some small contributions, at least initially, but will have major impact as we get deeper into commissioning. And these things includes things like the star tracker that we're going to use for verifying the telescope mount and pointing and tracking, of the dome seeing probe that he and Bo have been working on. And there's other small contributions that they seem small at the beginning, but they pile up at the end, and they will be a major contributor. And I'll lastly say that Michael brings to the project a really interesting and unique mix of skills. He has a physics background, mostly software related, as his recognition indicates, but he also brings some hands-on astronomy experience that allows Michael to place the work that he does into the context of what we're trying to do overall. So he's a great contributor to our team. And Michael, thank you very much for your contributions, and congratulations.
Thank you, Chuck, and once again, thank you, Michael, for the support. Hard work. Make Rubin a success. So let's get to the last of the awards, and that's for the team award. And this particular year, it's probably not a surprise given the comments earlier about the difficulties that we've all faced in dealing with COVID and the shutdowns and the impacts of the pandemic. But what we wanted to do for this particular year is in particular recognize that team that spent the early months of the pandemic fighting off winter and still going to the summit and keeping the hardware and the facility and the whole site safe from the weather, keeping everything clean and well maintained, as we all sort of struggled to imagine how to deal with the pandemic. And so these people spent those first few months of winter going to the site under very uncertain conditions, with the uncertainty of what this pandemic really meant. All of us thinking that it was only going to be yet another month, hardly possibly imagining that it would be 18 months later that we're still in this mess. And so while I definitely want to recognize this particular group for that early work, I also want to point out that they all continued and others joined them in going to the site later on, and you've seen the pictures from Steve and the comments from Steve. There's a huge number of you that have been going to that summit every day to make the success and to get the progress we've seen. And it really comes back to this early group that allowed us to really pave the way for that and keep everything in a good shape. So Christian, Claudio, Julio, Giovanni, Andrea, Juan Fabriga, Hernan, Hector, Juan Lopez, Guido, Elizabeth, Freddie, Oscar, Roberto, Juan Oriana, Claudio, Rodrigo, Jose Miguel, Sandra, Jacques, Edgar, Eduardo, Sergio, Luis, Vergara, Tommy, and Jose. All of you, thank you very much for all of that early work in going to the summit. And congratulations as being recognized for that service as a team. Okay. Those were our recognition of our excellent service awards. So now let me march through and recognize those that have reached the milestones with their years of service. And we'll start with 5 years. These 7 people have reached the 5-year anniversary with Aura, and that includes Rob, Alicia, and Aaron, Jeff, Angelo, Brian, and Michael. And so congratulations for that milestone in those first 5 years. And thank you for joining the team. 10 years. There's 3 of you that met this milestone of 10 years with Aura, and that includes Josh, Rob McKercher, and Freddie Munoz. And some of you came from other areas within Aura and have joined us only within the last few years, but really want to thank you for all of your service to Aura, and particularly for that, for shifting over to Rubin and helping us get this observatory built. The next group or person is 15 years of service. And for 15-year milestone, we have Ian. It's been a heck of a ride, Ian. I can just thank you for joining LSST at the time, Rubin now. Been a pleasure to have you on that journey, and thank you for all of your continued valuable contributions. Congratulations on having gone through all of that and making it to this 15 years. And then if I think about journeys, let me get to Hermann Schumacher. Let me just explain that there has already been a ceremony in Chile to do a true recognition of these milestones for our Chilean members and Chilean team. But we have to go and repeat for Hermann that he has been with Aura for 35 years, and certainly want to congratulate him for that milestone and for all of the contributions to all of the observatories that he's been helping with for all that time, and in particular for help with taking all that experience into the Rubin environment and helping us out for the last decade or so. But I couldn't help but take the opportunity, and I did a little bit of this with the Chilean ceremony, but I'll just shorten that by just taking this opportunity to think back. I've known Hermann for over 20, I think 22 or 23 years. And as we think about time and think about the journey, it struck me that about 20 years ago, we took this picture, and it is annoying beyond anything that off to the left at the bottom, look at Hermann. He could have just walked out of this picture and joined us today, and you wouldn't think anything of it. Roberto in the top left, similarly. And now these two guys on the right, Eduardo and myself, I don't know what happened, but 20 years hasn't been as nice to us as it has been to them. And so congratulations for not just the service, but having figured out how to go through this life and staying fit. And hopefully you'll enjoy many, many more years with Aura, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. So those are the years of service that I wanted to mention. And at this point, we also want to take an opportunity. We don't necessarily go through and identify everybody that has left the project, although we all know that there have been those, and we have sincerely appreciated the work that those people have done for us in our journey here. But we do want to at least point out several of our newest members over the last year, including Stephanie and Eric. Hector and Claudio have been with us for a while, but only recently became Aura employees, and so they have actually been with us for more than this past year. David Jimenez has joined us this year. Bruno came over from Gemini. Eric, Hernan, Alicia also has been with the organization for a while and joined us. And our very latest is Ayuana, who just joined us last month. So congratulations to these Aura employees for having joined Rubin, and welcome to the team. And we look forward to a day when we can actually see you in person and start this journey together in a less virtual way. Finally, there are 3 people that we do need to recognize in a special way. Last year, you heard me discuss Enrique Figueroa. Enrique was last year, interestingly, got his 5-year anniversary milestone, but really that was his 50th because he had already served 45 years with Aura, came back to help us out, spent 5 years doing what we promised him he could do in about 2, But earlier this year, he did finally retire for the second or third time. And so I did want to once again recognize that Enrique was very helpful to us, to put in 50 years to Aura and 5 real critical ones for Rubin, and is in retirement, hopefully squarely in retirement and having nothing to do with any of these meetings. And then Suzanne Jacoby joined Aura 38 years ago, has been with Rubin for 17 of those years, and has been spending less and less time, has been slowly transitioning off of key roles, and has been planning for this retirement, and has finally decided to retire fully at the end of August. And so I really want to thank Suzanne for all of the hard work that she's put in over the years, and having started, I believe, as a data reduction specialist working with the IRAF group way back when you were in kindergarten for sure, in the 80s, and later became a founding member of the education group within NOAO, and really pushed education to a new level within NOAO, and really forming a lot of key initiatives and key programs there. And since 2004, she's been with Rubin. And like many of you who were part of the team back then, was almost the Wild West as we tried to figure out how to construct a team, construct a project, get it through various reviews and reviews and reviews, proposing it in ways that were represented the strong observatory that we have finally set off to build and are well on our way to building. And Suzanne has just been a real key to that effort, particularly at the beginning when she was in charge of really developing the EPO ideas, moving that forward through the proposals and the reviews, and then later on being able to hand that off to others. But thank you, Suzanne, for all of that hard work. And even these past years as a quiet consultant in the background, just supporting all the way through. Another person that we've mentioned at times, because Jeff has also been slowly handing off many of his responsibilities over the years, but Jeff is also fully retiring after his 17 years with Aura and the Rubin project. And so in September has indicated he will finally and fully retire. And so Jeff is also, in the same ways as I mentioned for Suzanne, was there at the beginning when we were doing everything we all had to do and whatever was necessary to propose this project, to get it to move forward, to get it through the wickets, and to get it to the point where we were finally funded, and our 17 years later are here at this juncture looking at the end game. And so both Suzanne and Jeff, thank you very much for all your efforts, and congratulations on deciding to retire, and my very best to you in the next stage of whatever you pursue. I'm sure it'll be great. So that brings us to the conclusion of the formalities of the agenda. I think enough words have been said along the way, and I'm not going to repeat them. The importance of all of you and success that we enjoy as a project, the difficult times that we continue to endure. And so thanks for all of your hard work, whether you're working hard at home, working hard half and half in the buildings and the offices, or making the trek to the summit or the labs every day. We thank you all for all of that work. With that, I'm going to stop sharing, and we have left enough time if there are particular questions or any other comments that anybody would like to make. Big crowd, so lots
I'll
of.
just say, Victor, you looked pretty snappy in that picture at SOAR.
It
Nice
feels
white
like it
pants,
was a
too.
long time. It feels like a long time ago, Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to go talk to Hermann and to others about their elixir of life or whatever they're doing.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah, share it with some of us other older gray-haired folks.
Is Jeff retiring in protest to the U.S. women's team performance in the Olympics?
I haven't spoken to him in the last few days. I'm pretty sure he had already planned on retiring. I know he did, but there may be an element to his current view of life, a lot to do with how they're doing. And in case you're worried, he did promise me that if we are able to have an in-person PCW next year, that he would come back and organize soccer if that's possible. So I know there's a lot of people that were getting anxious, but
Very good.
all right. Steve, did you want to say any last words? And
I'll just wrap up by saying thanks to all of you for attending. It's always a nice opportunity to do this, and let's just keep it going and get this thing built and finished. And as Bob said, he can start operating it on the sky. So thanks again to all of you, and have a great weekend.